welcome to the Talking Timelines podcast. We are four women with 4 points of view and four accents with one common goal: to share insights and information about what's going on in the world from a higher consciousness perspective. No BS, no PC, just lots of ideas that you won't hear on mainstream media. We chat, we laugh, and most of all, we shed and share light. Join us each week as we talk timelines.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 23 of Talking Timelines, and today it's just Laura and myself. The other girls are away, busy on vacation and other things going on. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to just share with you a little bit about what we do, why we do it, what we can do to help people, and things that have been coming up about that based around healing and why we need it, and why we need to release the trauma from our system and so on. So I'm going to ask Laura to share what she does and how she got into it in the first place, if she doesn't mind. And over to you, Laura.
Thanks, Janine. Nice to be joining you today. So I was thinking about this, that it might be a good idea to share what Janine and I do, since it seems to me that today people are there's so much need. People are really, really suffering. There's so much depression and unhappiness, and I'm seeing so much anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just apparent, and people are not getting the help they need, or they're going about it the wrong way. And I think so much of it is how programmed people were to think about themselves, and that we're programmed to think we're broken and we need to be fixed. So that's like laying the foundation that there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong with us. And unless we have everything in our life working perfect, there's something wrong with us that needs to be fixed. Well, I have a very different perspective, and I'm sure you do too, Janine, and that is that we incarnate to have these experiences. And there's going to be challenges, things that come up that we need to be able to navigate through. We also come here with past life trauma. We come here with inherited ancestral trauma. We come here for certain experiences that we may not think are so positive, but yet our soul wants to experience. So there's many, many reasons why we go through what we do. And it's very interesting because you and I chose, well, or maybe it chose us, more alternative ways of looking at this. Then I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. Is that when I was very, very young, I always felt different. Of course, that's not that uncommon, but also I was claircognizant, where I knew things. I knew things at an extremely young age, where I knew nobody told me. I didn't observe it from anybody else. Nobody taught it to me, but I knew. And the knowing, for people that don't understand what this is, the knowing is so strong that there's not a doubt in any cell in your body, and you don't know how you know it, but you do. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, that can kind of serve you really well, but it also makes people, you kind of wonder, well, not everyone is like this. Maybe this is some gift that I have that I could use to help people.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that so many people would tell me as I got older, oh, you have such clarity, or you should be a therapist. And I never wanted to be a therapist. Just kind of what traditional psychotherapy was didn't appeal to me, because I just kind of intuitively knew that's not it. People are going to talk and tell you about their past and their problems, and you're just going to feed it more energy in the present. You're going to perpetuate it. So I didn't follow that path. I didn't know what it was going to be, because I was always studying alternative health and studying kind of spirituality, but I chose kind of by default a very traditional corporate life. And for 15 years, I had a career in the beauty industry doing product development and marketing, something completely different than what my gifts and my interest was. But I was always studying it on the side. That's where my interest was. So it's kind of one of these things
Mm-hmm.
that it gets to the point where you don't know what it looks like until it finds you. And
Yeah.
I started hearing about life coaching, and that appealed to me for the sole reason that you're not digging so much in the past. You're basically starting where you are now, and what do you want to create for the future? Now I look back, and that still seems very fluff to me in that sense when I say it, but that's what the interest was. I don't want to talk about what happened to you when you're 3 years old and rehashing and talking about it, but what can we do to create what you want in the future? Did that for a while. Then it wasn't enough, because I knew that, you had to get in touch deeper. You had to get in touch on a soul level. You had to work with the subconscious. It's you really need to go deeper. And I discovered these modalities of Psych-K, which for those that don't know, it's spelled PSYCH-K, stands for key to the psyche. And then later on, emotion code and body code. And both these modalities utilize muscle testing to communicate with the subconscious, which I do in person as well as virtually through surrogation. And what I loved is that there's a language that the subconscious uses, and you can ask it questions, you can get immediate response to it. And what I can think really kind of got me just like so excited about this is that I realized this is quantum physics. I'm working with the quantum field. When I am doing muscle testing for someone that's 3,000 miles away, where one, I'm in the utilizing the field of Psych-K or the
Yeah.
field of emotion code, because any modality has its own morphic field. And I'm also tapping into the field, the energetic field of the client that I'm working with. So then, the fascination for quantum physics and how, we all relate and in consciousness, it just keeps expanding. So that's kind of how I got into this and how it really, got to where I am now. And a lot of the people that come to me are dealing with anxiety. They've had lots of childhood trauma that traditional therapy didn't work, or they've tried this and they have some short-term relief, but the patterns perpetuate. And
Hmm.
they get to a point where they're new relationship, same situation, different face, same relationship, or same situation with work, or same situations with their health. They're not able to move past it. Janine, I mentioned this to you before we got started. I was just listening to yesterday with an interview with Woody Allen, and he's notorious he's always talking about his therapist and his analyst, all his movies he talks about it and whatever. In the interview, he was asked about therapy, and he said he was been in therapy since he was 16 years old,
Wow.
majority of his life. He's going to be 90 and he doesn't go to therapy anymore. And the interviewer said, "Well, how's that working? If you're in your entire life, can't be working if you're in it the entire life." And he said, "Well," he goes, "it worked a little bit." He said, "I kind of like I," and I just thought that was so interesting that you're spending almost an entire lifetime in therapy, and all you can say is it worked a little bit. Like, yeah, I got some awareness of this. And it just goes to show you that if you really, really want to heal things in this lifetime, one, you have to be committed. You have to be willing to do the work. It's not just the work on the therapist or the practitioner. You have to be ready. You have to be open to do it. And you have to um, be the participant and not expect someone to do it for you.
Yeah.
Such a big part of this. So that's kind of like my background and how I got to doing this. But I was always interested in alternative modalities, whether it was health related. And that's another thing is that I never, I never separated the body from the mind. To me, they were always connected.
Hmm.
Something's going on with something has an illness. Okay, what's going on in your life? What stress do you have? What's trauma? There was always this connection. So I think it's such a beautiful thing when you can just look at we have multi levels to our being. There's so many levels to it. We're not just what's in the 3D. There's so much higher, and your work actually goes, much deeper to this. But I've always had an interest in a holistic approach to things, and kind of like what's not mainstream, because that's when there are things being suppressed
Hmm.
because there's a lot of money to be made in pharmaceuticals, in keeping you in therapy for 50 years. There's a
Yeah.
lot of money to be made. And that's a whole, you know, not only program of what you will need, but it's also a mindset of how you need to think about yourself, that you always need external factors to help you.
Hmm.
So,
So what's your average kind of
time
client?
period,
Well, no, the average kind of client problem that you get.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Lately,
It's the
lately it's been anxiety. It used to be more of, oh, I'm not. I don't know. I'm just not happy. You know, I've got this lots of childhood trauma, lots of early sexual abuse. I mean, like astounding amount of
Yeah,
really severe trauma,
yeah,
sexual abuse and neglect and horrific stories. I mean, they're heart-wrenching to hear it. And of
yeah,
course, as an adult, you know, especially we have so many influences coming at us now. And people are constantly, oh, I should be doing this, or comparison, or you need to worry about this thing. It just compounds what hasn't been healed earlier in their lives.
yeah. And what I find with people as well, most people will go, no, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm healthy, I'm there, you know, I haven't got any trauma. And then something's going to come along and boom, everything that they've ignored from their past. People ignore things like when you were a child and your cat died or your dog died, and all those little bits of trauma get compacted into the cell memory. And
Mhm.
eventually it's got to go somewhere and it kind of pops. That's the way I look at it. Like you, I get anxiety and um, a lot of trauma, you know, clientele, but also people that are finding blocks to, you know, where they're moving in life or where they want to live or where they want to go with their business and stuff like that. So, you know, I can't say that I've had, you know, a real specific group of people, because I've worked with all sorts of people, from billionaire rock stars in, you know, in bands that one of them lost his voice. That was something to do with his mother when he was younger, and you know, his singing wasn't coming together. To, I mean, military. I've done a lot of work with military. I mean, I've even helped. I had a priest as a client and prostitute as a client over the years. So the, you know, broad spectrum of people come to me with various things. But one of the biggest things I've noticed is, with serious illness, there's usually been some kind of trauma between 7 and 10 years prior to that, like big, you know, serious issues like cancer and stuff like that. There's usually been a trigger moment that's gone off within their system. And when I ask people that, I remember years ago, I did a lot of voluntary work, and there was a woman with breast cancer, and I said to her, "What was there a specific trauma you can remember 7 or 8 years ago?" Because my intuition was telling me to ask that question, and she said, "Yeah, my son told me that he was homosexual," and I said, "Were you upset about it?" And she said, "No, quite the opposite." She said, "But I was just devastated that he didn't tell me until he was, you know, 16, when I could have been there for him when he was 10 or 11 or 12. I just, you know, felt bad that I wasn't there for him to be able to tell me when he was younger." And that was the root cause of the tumor that grew in her left breast, heartache. Um, and when, you know, dealing with stuff like this, some people are great at letting go, as you know, and then others you need to get in deeper and deeper and deeper. My background was 20 years in architecture, and then when I was 36, well, I lost a couple of family members and good friend when I was 34, but at 36 I lost my father, and that was the turning point for me. I had PTSD symptoms that nobody was diagnosing. My doctor just wanted to give me sleeping tablets because I couldn't sleep, and antidepressants, which I didn't want to take. It was like, I'm not depressed, I'm grieving. You know, there's a big difference. And I went for some energy healing off a good friend of mine, and that was the turning point for me. Then I went down that energy healing. I went back to uni and studied hypnotherapy, counseling, did a bit of psychology, various other things.
Mm.
Things I've dabbled with, craniosacral therapy, and I'm certified in NLP as well. And I work with shamans because I wanted to learn about the mind, body, and spirit. And you know, if you cast your mind back, Laura, there's been the body. People have been healing the body, and then it became expanded into the mind body connection. But they've still been ignoring the spirit, the soul, for decades, and that's been brought back in with what we're doing. And by spirit, I mean the energetic matrix that makes up the body, the physical, mental, emotional layers, the grids of light that make up our energy field. That's also our immune system. The aura is the immune system. People don't realize that generally. As,
Mm.
and the soul essence is within that, is the, you know, that spark within those layers of the spiritual energies. and they carry information, which again, people don't realize. Every time there's a planetary alignment, that information's downloaded into our energy field, and it starts to come up in our system for us to heal it. So the clients that come to me are very across the board, certainly more so with the coaching aspect of it, which I really enjoy doing with people, because there's always something in there and underlying that's blocking
Right.
at,
Right.
at that level. And where you're using the kinesiology techniques, the muscle testing techniques, I tend to just tap in. When I look at people, if I close my eyes and use my inner eye, what people call the third eye, the mind's eye, I can separate people out into like a deck of cards and choose
Mm,
to which layer of their energy field the problem is and what age it was and where it
mm.
happened and stuff like that. It's like I'm, tapping into the software in a computer, and opening that file. What's in that file? What's the root cause of this? And it comes to me really quickly, But that's
Something similar, I mean, similar, but very different. I mean, that sounds incredible. And that really is a gift to be able to do that. What I'm also very, very intuitive that I was at a very young age. And what happens when I get into a session, like I seriously don't take any credit. I tell people I'm the conduit. It is
mm,
coming through me, but I will get things, what to ask. Ask
mm,
about this. I'll tell people, I said, listen, I'm just going to tell you what comes to me. It may be off, and it's usually spot on. It's the question
mhm,
they need to hear. Oh, they saying something, and I'll just be like, oh, I go, tell me about this. So it's very
mhm,
interesting that we have kind of different ways of doing it, but we hone in on, and I think that's really probably why what like the gist of why we do this work, because anyone can learn a modality, anyone can
yeah,
be trained, but it's like when you know how to discern what's going on with this individual person, what's the real thing. It's like they're going to tell you what the top line. They're not going to tell you what's really going on. You have to go underneath that, and it's not that always that easy, because sometimes it takes a little, a little journey to get to that thing. But to see their eyes light up because they have this clarity, and many times it's something that they've already suspected, and it gives
yeah,
them validation that, yeah, yeah, I kind of thought there might be a correlation between this.
yeah. And the other thing you mentioned about past life stuff, past life, previous life, call it what you will, it's all happening in the now.
Right,
There is only
right,
this moment.
right.
We all know that, and anyone that's been following us knows that. But the imprints and the cell memory of everything we've experienced and everything that our ancestors have experienced is all within our field. And when I talk about the planetary alignments, they're basically waking up those memories for us to deal with them. They're dormant and then they get switched back on so that we know what we've got to work on next to get through that next layer into the higher frequency, which is creating, the external world around us. So I loved it. Healing is my passion, but my other passion, and it started years ago when with COVID hit, and that is being on stage and actually
Mm.
explaining it on stage to people and doing live performances in a way that you know people stand up in the audience and tell me what the problem is, and I'm tuning straight into this is where the root cause of it is, and are you ready to release this, and being able to do that for people. My dream is to be able to do that in a football stadium, not on an individual basis, but to do a mass healing in some kind of stadium for people to release war, racism, all these big problems that people really knew how this simulator works that we live in. They'd understand that these things can be switched off in a day if there was enough of us did it, en masse. And that's always been my goal.
Now, Janine, do you see this ability that you have as this is a gift that you have? Like I've never heard you use the term psychic, that you're
Mm-mm,
not psychic. I never heard you use the term that you're a medium, but yet you're able to see energy in a way that 99.9% of the population can't. So
mm-hmm.
would you see it as this is just a gift that you were born with? Or do you feel like it developed as you've honed in on
I do believe, well, I know I was born with it. In that respect, I shut it down when I was 11 because it was overwhelming. And then it reopened again when I was in my mid-30s after the trauma of the deaths that, I experienced with close friends and family. So it's always been there. And when I was interviewed by Laura Eisenhower, she said to me that you're carrying this divine matrix blueprint. And so it's always been there. And it's just my background in architecture has actually helped me in so many ways, because when I look at people, I can take them apart and put them back together in my mind. It's like, looking at all the different areas and in between as well, because I think that's why I get such good results with the portal, because these layers that we talk about are held in the plasma field. So it's like string theory within a field, but even the field holds memory.
Right.
So I learned a long time ago about if you're dealing with viruses, that you need to bring the healing energy not just into the energetic layer, the physical body, the emotional body, mental body, spiritual body, astral body, whatever, but the spaces in between actually hold on to the memory as well. And when you start working on the spaces in between, you really start to get results very quickly, because the memories are all there. So what's going on in the world at the moment with the war and stuff like that, I think this is a projection of the mass consciousness, that we've all got war in our system that needs to be released in order to remove it from the mass consciousness. It's going to keep coming up, out there. And the same as everything else out there. People talk about the trafficking and all this nasty stuff that's going on in the world.
Well, you've said something, actually, it's come up quite a few podcasts that I always thought was really fascinating, in that if you're triggered by something, it's because you have it. There's a resonance there. And I thought that was so
Yeah.
fascinating, because I'll look at some people that child trafficking and it makes them crazy, or
Yeah.
something else, or certain things. And I've kind of like, well, that's really interesting,
Yeah.
that because there's a lot of things you can pick, a million things that are going on, and there's certain things that people are so heated about, that why that thing, and it makes so much sense, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't be, if it wasn't somehow still active vibrationally in you, you wouldn't be
Exactly.
reacting so strongly to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you were talking about with energy, there actually is, in body code, which is one of the processes I use, we can find out, because you were talking about viruses and the energy around it. We can find out, do you have a virus, or do you have the energy of a virus? Do you have a parasite, or is it and it'll distinguish,
Yeah.
asking the body, no, you have the energy of a parasite, and we can clear that. We can clear that out of your field. So I think it's so important for people to realize that it's not just always a physical thing, that
Yeah.
our energy is so important, and there are actually so many things that are hijacking it, so many ways it's being hijacked and tampered with and manipulated, that the more awareness we have, I think the more people can pay attention to what's affecting them.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, with if there is a virus or the energy of something in the system, it we can change that frequency of it. You can change it with intent by tapping in to, I take people into theta brainwave frequency, which is a relaxed meditative state. It's not deep hypnosis or anything like that. You're still conscious, but you're in a relaxed state, that kind of state where if you're lying on the sofa watching a movie on a Sunday afternoon, and that nice relaxed place. Or even when you're driving on the freeway and you've just forgotten about the last hour of your driving, you're actually in a hypnotic state, doing that. So I explain that to people that are new to it. Obviously, most people that come to me are pretty open-minded, and they're easy to work with. Every now and then you get somebody that's completely new to it, so you have to explain it in a certain way to them. But the techniques that I'm using now are very different to what I was doing 10 years ago. Using the one portal is an extremely powerful way to move a lot of energy and change that energy back to source blueprint very quickly. And that's why I've always had this kind of vision of being able to do it to a lot of people. at once, And when I first went on Instagram, Robert Kennedy actually reached out to me. He had 750,000 followers, and I used to send him the free DNA upgrades. And he actually reached out to me and asked me for my email address for his private, group. And I was like, great. That was 5 years ago, before he got kicked off
Mhm.
for misinformation, which is just, craziness. But one day I've still got that vision that, we can, if the right person came along and gave me the platform, I only need 15 minutes. And within that 15 minutes of that, opening the portal for thousands of people at once, we could change so much on this planet overnight.
But so if you're opening the portal, would someone have to know what it is they wanted to release?
No, we did what we would do. We would set an intention of, what needs to be
What
released.
needs to be
Yeah, what needs to be released from the mass consciousness, and everything
Mm,
is a portal of that. Is when I open the portal now, I can open a lot of portals in one go. So it went from one portal to 49, and now I can open it for an individual portal per person
oh,
as well. So everyone would get what they need, to be released, and that is my goal. How that's going to come about, I don't know. We both know what the universe is like. You never know what's going to happen, but that's the goal. I've specialized in helping people remove trauma, because that's how I got to remove my trauma. I had to find, nobody was giving me the solution. Nobody was helping me, deal with deep rooted grief, and a lot of it as well. And so that's when I went down that road. Well, what's happening when you've got grief? Where is it being stored? How is it affecting all of your bodies, not just the physical body? Because I ended up in hospital for 15 days,
mm,
and it was grief. My body was breaking down. My digestive system stopped working completely, and I was
mm.
paralyzed because of it.
Yeah,
And
grief is one of those, first of all, very misunderstood.
yeah,
Well, people don't know how to approach it. Um, yeah, and it can really, really, really go deep. You don't
yeah,
even realize. It's funny because you had pointed out something to me, which I didn't really make the connection in the grief that I experienced when my cat died.
mm-hmm,
The level of it.
mm-hmm,
It's kind of like now it's been over a year and a half. And I mean, I think I've kind of worked through a lot of it. I really did. Especially because I'm cat sitting and I have animals around me and it's just been great. But I didn't even realize how that was affecting me
mm-hmm.
because it was just like this, it was the longest relationship I ever had,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when that's no longer there. So yeah, grief. I also a lot of people also come to me with fear.
mm-hmm,
And it's almost like what it's about is the flavor of the day. And that I think so much of it is what they're hearing and what they're being told and who they're listening to. And it's all over. And it could actually shift from day to day, but it's just this constant feeling of fear. And I noticed something else I wanted to bring up, which kind of ties into all this, is that um people that are following certain channelers or whatever. I used to, kind of getting into like I started very early with like, oh, the law of attraction and listening to Abraham and all those. I kind of, I think a lot of people that was their entry into kind of exploring sort of how things work. And there was issues with that and whatever. And I've since moved on. But I did see something that kind of came up in my feed. There was a quote that said, do whatever like what all you need to do is feel good. Whatever you need to do to feel good, like period. And I thought, oh my God, this is bypassing. This is such a serious no for people because of all
yeah,
you're trying to do feel good, you're not letting yourself feel. That's the problem. Is that
mm-hmm,
people are afraid to feel, so they stuff it down. They stuff it down with food, they stuff it with alcohol, with smoke, with
yeah,
any of these things because they don't want to feel because, oh my God, if I don't feel good all the time, I'm causing myself damage or I'm going to manifest this horrible thing I don't want. And I'm like, oh my God, this message is really, really harmful to people. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not no feel good. It's no, actually feel it. Feel it in that moment. Allow it to move through you. And you're going to get
Yeah.
beyond it much faster than if you keep trying to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. I mean, I bottled up so much grief inside me that, you know, I ended, and I've mentioned this before, I ended up with lumps in both breasts within 2 years of one another. And the left one was grief and the right one was anger. And the
Mm,
anger was like just I'm of being, you know, a bit of an odd child, a bit hyper, a bit weird, could see fairies in the garden and things like that, clairvoyant kid, very sensitive and angry that I was misunderstood, you know, in the world, that I didn't fit in. And in that respect, even though I had a great childhood, happy family, or, you know, all that kind of stuff, there was still this innate feeling that what the hell am I doing on this planet with these people? It's like I just never felt like I belonged here. And I was always really deeply saddened by, when I was growing up, Ethiopia and the starving children was a big thing. It was on the news every night, and we sat down to dinner to watch the news. My dad wanted the news on while we ate dinner. So, you know, you've got this negativity coming in. And I had this really deep rooted guilt that I had too much, that
mm,
these
mm,
pot-bellied children were dying of starvation, and I had like 3-course meal in, you know, every night when I got home from school. And
mhm,
it did, you know, I had to clear that out of my system. It did traumatize me, but you don't realize it at the time.
mhm,
You know, all of that had to be cleared out of my system.
mhm,
But as we evolve, and you know, our group, our little group on here, we're pretty evolved women. You start to, at first, I found, question, am I getting cold? Because you're not getting triggered by it anymore. You're not
mm.
getting that charge of judgment when you hear about child trafficking or, you know, whatever. You don't, it's just you're observing it. Then you know it's not in your system.
And then, also neutrality is where you want to be. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be triggered.
Yeah, that's where the power is. And that's why we'd steer to one way or the other. It's all pick a side. Everything's
Yeah.
pick a side. Love and light or the dark. You know, that was
Yeah.
the big, one of the biggest things, and we've spoken about this before, about, you know, the love and light crowd. They've actually been misled to
Mm.
stick to one side of duality and ignore ignore the other side of it, the dark side of it, when, you know, really what you need to get into is get into that dark side, love and accept that dark side of yourself and everyone else, and it starts to change. Things start to change when we, you know, when we do that. And it does, if there is deep rooted incest or sexual abuse, whether it's your great grandparents or whatever, and that's in your system, you're still going to get charged by it. It might not have been in this life, but all of that is in your system. And if we've got to get, sexual abuse is a, you know, is a big one, and racism is another big one on a global scale, out of the mass consciousness, we need a large group of people to take that out of their systems completely.
I think it's also struggle. It's struggle and poverty. It's funny. My mother made a really funny comment. So my mother and I got manicure. I hardly ever do, but my mother and I got manicures, and I was saying to her that, like, I got these. I inherited the light looks terrible, but I'm showing you, Janine. I have these knuckles. Like, I've had this since I'm 10 years old. My knuckles look like old lady faces. And the light looks horrible. My hands aren't that bad. But anyway, my mother has the exact same hands. Actually, her hands probably don't even, she's going to be 94. They don't even look as bad as mine. But anyway, I said, Ma, I got these hands. And my mother said, she said, "Oh, I think they're peasants' hands. I think because we come from where the stock, I think they're peasants because her parents are from Greece and whatever, and this and so what she believes is that we come from this poverty mentality of this is what they were doing, and I didn't say anything when I said it. I'm like, I don't know. I said, but they're strong. I said, I have strong hands. I can do things with it. I said, I like having strong hands. Like, I see it from a very different perspective. He sees it, oh, they're workers, they're peasants. And I see it as, no, they're strong. I said, there's power in your hands. They're healer. You can heal with them. You can carry things. And I think, and I've realized, and I've known that, and actually you and I have talked about that separately, that there is a lot of struggle in my uh, ancestral lineage and what they went through, and it's generations of
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah,
And that's something I think is very common for people of how do they get beyond that, that they actually deserve more, that they can have more, that it's possible, even this, that it's possible for them.
yeah,
It's so ingrained that no, we're not those people. We're not like that.
yeah. And the other thing that I think is quite ingrained in people as well is to see obstacles instead of just seeing the goal and focus on the goal, and we're, that negative mindset of creating obstacles. But what about this or what about that? Instead of,
Right.
just clearing the way and staying really focused on stuff. I find that when I'm in the present, things happen much easier rather than trying, to manifest things. I've never been big on manifesting. We've talked about this before. And I think it's because a lot of it is done from the lower ego. And I think our higher self knows what we need, knows what we
Yeah, yeah. There's also this energy of trying to create, when you're manifesting, there's also this feeling of lack
need.
in your body, in your energy. So yeah, it's the ego wants to think, but it's also I don't have this thing and I need this thing.
Yeah.
So, there was something really interesting that I read recently, and I'm still trying to kind of distill it out, but it was an approach to healing to kind of bring it back to what we started with. It's this modality that I'm still kind of learning about, very interesting, different way of looking at the body as just basically waves and particles, really bringing it
Yeah.
down to the energetic physics, like quantum physics of what we are, and we're not this solid thing. And and it was saying that when you focus on the problem that you're trying to solve, you're actually making it, you're what
Work.
I'm looking for. You're actually manifesting, not manifesting it. It's actually, you're giving it form. Whereas if you just look at it as particles, you can, I mean, it's a way of basically healing, very rapid healing and clearing it. And it's all how you're looking at the body. So anything that you're trying to heal, you're acknowledging that there's a problem there. So you're giving energy to the problem. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not making sense, but it was like a fascinating way of looking at it, that there is no problem. There's no,
Yeah.
if you start with whatever it is going on, like this was a chiropractor who was talking about this, who created this process. And he's like, they come in for the knee. It's like, no, there's actually nothing, there is no knee. There is nothing wrong with the knee. If you just look at it from an energetic perspective, you're taking the limitation that our human 3D brain has upon it. I mean, this is really high level stuff, which I'm sure a lot of it is what you do in your work. But I just, it was
Yeah.
so fascinating because it's such a departure from how we're trained to look at our bodies.
Yeah. Well, I don't see myself as ever getting ill now. It's always, what is my body trying to release?
Mm,
When people say to me about illness, I'm like, I don't get sick. But every now and then I might get a twinge in my,
right.
sciatic nerve, and I'm like, okay, body, what's going on here? And I know, oh, here comes another bit of grief that my body's trying to release from my, left hip. And if you think about it, when people get older, what are the parts of them that go? The hips, which is related to the sacral chakra, and all the blocked emotional stuff gets stuck in that area of the body. I've said to people before, got sciatica, go and watch a sad movie, get a box of tissues and cry, and the sciatica will be gone the next day. It can be as quick as that when you're releasing it and you know how to release it. The knees, people have problems with their knees. That's fear gets trapped in the knees and not being grounded, feet, ankles swelling up. These are all normal problems when people are getting older. And it is to do with emotional stuff being trapped in the system, and they and not being grounded as well.
And there's also the expectation too of what's supposed to happen when you age.
Yeah.
Like I had a client come the other day, a first time, and he's telling me, like, he was very fit. He's in his late 60s, very fit, active. And yeah, I'm having pain in my leg and my hip. And yeah, you make some pain, but it's so common for people to say it because they're actually expecting the body to break down. And that's something that is an ongoing thing that I'm really trying to get away from, like thinking
Yeah,
about my age and thinking about, oh, well, I used to be able to do this, and now I notice this.
yeah, I don't say that. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm going to go and get Apollo because he's barking.
Oh, okay.
Can edit this out.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hey, Rudy, what's up? What's up, buddy? What's up? Come and say hello to Laura.
Oh,
Oh,
hey, cutie. Hi, Paul. Oh, you're losing your head. He keeps going away. There he is. Oh, Apollo. What's the matter?
You're going to sit down here? Or
Oh,
sit down? I've got a cushion next to my computer so you can sit on my desk with
so
me.
precious. He's so precious. Yeah, the kitty, she's sitting right near me. She has to
Yeah.
sit near me.
I'm putting him for cataracts at the moment because his eyes are starting to go. So I'm putting castor oil, hexane-free castor oil in his eyes to help him with that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good for that.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we? We were talking
The
about
aging. You were just saying how you don't get sick and your body's releasing, and
yeah.
just about the aging.
Yeah, so I refuse to accept my biological age as an expectation of anything. Like I always my self-talk is I'm like I'm as fit as I was when I was 30. And I can do it. And I watch people while they move. I like to sit outside a cafe and watch people. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
And I watch how people move, and you can see the difference with older people, how they move, that they're stiffer or they're hunched over or they've got a walking stick or whatever. And I'm like, that's never going to happen to me. That's never going to be me. I make sure that I get down on the floor and like
Yep.
my partner's got a Rottweiler, so we've got a Chihuahua and a Rottweiler. And I make sure I get down on the floor and wrestle with the Rottweiler and, jumping up as fast as I can and just keep that body moving. And I really don't notice that my body is 60 years old because I still move. I jump in and out of the sports car, his car, without opening the doors, like a kid would, climbing over the door to get in and out of the car. Just even things like that is a mindset of
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I look at like how I dress a lot and like I'm never changing. I'm never gonna dress like an old lady. Like, no,
no.
I dress way too cool. I have way too much fun with it. It's like probably won't cut my hair.
Yeah,
Like someday I'll let it go gray and have long gray. Like someday I'll probably do that, but nope, not right now. But no, to little things I notice, like only because my sleep is so erratic that certain times I'll be like, wow, I don't have the energy or I don't have the drive. And that's like, just stop telling you, like, if you forget how old you are, right? These things aren't going to matter. So
yeah,
that's a big part of it too, is
yeah. I don't have the same drive that I had when I was younger, but there is so much more contentment,
mm,
inner peace and being present. I've noticed that being present is I feel different because of that. Once I started getting into the meditation side of things and being present, I can feel it all the time now. Once you've trained your mind to be in the moment, it just happens naturally, and it does make a big difference.
mhm,
That observer thing kicks in, that
mhm.
observing everything that's going on out there, listening to conversations, seeing what's making people tick. Like we were saying earlier, what triggers people, then you know what's in their consciousness as well. So I like to listen more than I talk these days because you
Mm,
can learn a lot from just listening to people's conversations. And that old saying, what people say about you says more about them than it does you.
yeah.
So if you listen to people and how they talk about other people, and how they talk about what they're seeing in the world, it tells you a lot about them. You can learn a lot. And this is why consultations are important when we're working with the client, asking certain questions.
Right. Well, I was going to say also is that I think a lot of people are really afraid of going a route that's less traditional because there's so much fear of what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm talking about more like physical things, but even like, oh no, I have to, like I'm still going to my therapist. I had a client the other day and I said, she just started working with me, and I said to her, I said, I have a question to you. I said, why are you seeing a therapist? Why are you seeing a therapist? I mean, it was, and she's just like, she kind of questioned it. And then she was telling me how the therapist was basically saying, convincing her that she needed to stay. And people get
Yeah.
so caught up, whether it's a medical doctor or someone, that they have more power over you and your body than you do. So people,
Yeah.
they're put into this fear of, oh, if I don't go take the chemo, if I don't go get this injection, if I don't take this prescribed medication, oh my, something really bad is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And then, they'll do that and they'll get sick or whatever, or they'll try things in tandem. There's a lot, and I'm the other way around. I'm afraid, I'm staying away from traditionals. That's my last resort to be
Yeah.
like, I don't want to bring anything foreign into. I have way too much respect and just honoring my body to give it anything. I know my body's ability to heal. I know all it wants is for us to support it in its healing, give it what it needs, give it the sunlight, give it the exercise, give it the sleep, give it the nutrition. Your body's going to heal itself.
Give it the love
Give
as
it the
well.
love. Exactly. And then, then you'll find out, okay, I've got this pattern going on. And that's when I think some outside assistance can really help, because it is very, very hard to work on things like trauma, things like fear. Things are so ingrained that it's not, the awareness isn't enough. The awareness is the beginning, but you really need to work with someone who's objective
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And you
not,
know
and there's no bias.
my best friend Jane used to do a lot of healing work with me. She was my go-to, and she was trained by me. So, she had a lot of this technique. So we got a lot of stuff cleared, because sometimes you just need to be on the receiving end, whether it's a massage or reflexology or something like that. We all need to pamper ourselves. But when I had the lumps in my breast, I told two friends of mine, my best friend and my other friend, who was a nurse, acupuncturist, chiropractor, clairvoyant, and we were all about the same age. They're the only two people that I spoke to. And I just got into it. I got into, like, tuned into the lumps and was like, what's the root cause of this? I'm focused on healing the root cause of that, and releasing that from my system. And they both disappeared. And
Wow.
it was emotional trauma that created them. One of the worst things that happens is, people tend to go down the allopathic route, and what do? They stick a hole in it and biopsy, and then release whatever is in the middle of it into the system, and that's when it metastasizes. And more people are speaking up about that now. There are doctors actually telling the truth about that now, to let people know. But it's unfortunate that people get scared and they tend to stick to what we've been programmed to believe, that doctors have all the answers. And I'm not anti-doctor. Some of my very close friends are doctors and nurses. And one of my dear friends was a doctor for 51 years, but he used to send me clients, and he said, this is a special client, meaning that there was something in there that shouldn't be in their body, and stuff like that. But he was a very open-minded doctor, medical doctor. And he treated himself with food, basically.
I mean, how incredible would it be? And I really do believe it'll be the future, that we will have medical doctors that are using these energy modalities. I mean, think
Yeah.
about having the knowledge that you have in medical school, but also understanding the body's innate wisdom and
Yeah.
working with it that way. I mean, it would eradicate most illness and put a lot of people out of business.
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? It's been a money-making thing, and those of us that are awake, we realise that. Other people don't. They're very blinkered in what they understand and what they believe, and that's their choice. But the way things are on the planet at the moment, with the changes that are happening, with the solar rays coming in and stuff like that, there's more and more information about the importance of clearing trauma out of your body and metal toxicity and stuff like that, because the radiation has an effect on the metal in the system. And it's time. It's never been a more important time, particularly these next 5 years leading up to 2030 and the certain agendas that are going on out there. This is a time to really work on ourselves. It's not a time to be sitting back thinking it's all COVID's gone and it's all over and it's all back to normal. It's what we've spoken before. There is no new normal yet. There is what we create. And our whole system is creating that. It's not just sitting there and thinking happy thoughts. Your whole vibrational field frequency is creating reality en masse. And that's what people need to wake up to. I think we should be teaching a law of projection and stuff like that in school, certainly in high school. So we come out of school with that knowledge. My dog is like really just like having a 2-year-old jumping all over the place at the moment. Okay, well, I think unless you've got anything else you want to share, Laura, we can leave it there today.
Oh, I think this was great.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this at home, guys, and we will see you all again soon for Talking Timelines.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Disclaimer: the content in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views, opinions, and information shared do not necessarily represent those of the hosts, but is provided for additional perspectives. None of the hosts are medical professionals, so we do not dispense medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any health-related issues. And thank you for listening to Talking Timelines.